Welcome. I'm super excited to have Maria Gallo with us today. I've been hosting these series of live interviews with folks that have taken the time to not just read my book, to also write a review about it and post it on Amazon. And I'm so grateful that they've done this, because I do think that hearing what other people have thought about this book and how they react to the book helps people know whether it's a book for themselves. So small list, big results. Launch a successful offer, no matter the size of your email list. Was just launched October 31st. So far, really great results. And I'm excited to dive into with Marie. So Maria Gallo, she is an alumni, scholar, and strategist. You probably never thought about this, but there's a whole world around being an alumni to an organization, to a school, and what you can do with your network. And I'm super excited that we got to meet earlier this year and last year and talk about all this. Here's her review that she posted on Amazon. Robbie Samuels is generous with his ideas and stories. I found myself with paper and pen by my side taking notes. It's inspiring and practical, all rolled into one. Please join me in welcoming Maria to this interview. Welcome.
Hi, Robbie. It's so nice to be here. Thanks for inviting me to be on your LinkedIn Live.
My pleasure. So, all right, you and I have known each other a little bit. We got introduced because we're both in the world of relationship building and networking, coming at
Yes.
it from different angles. And you heard about this book coming out, and you had your own book you were working on at the time.
I do.
So, what were your first thoughts when you finally got a chance to get your hands on the book? And
Well,
yeah,
my first thought was I love to be able to be immersed, as I said in my review, immersed in stories. So I think that was what really kind of drew me in, was that you have the practical, but then there's also all those kind of practical stories that tell you. And I have to say, I'm also a sucker for Venn diagrams. So the fact that you had an awesome Venn diagram in it, that I could see myself kind of on, in that idea of the expertise and the passion and the impact and income. I just thought this is the kind of book for me. Is that, and I have quite a humble list, and so this was the book for me. So
yeah,
yeah, so
that's awesome.
that was the starting point, I think, for the journey.
Yeah, the stories really do bring to life the concepts, and I didn't have all the stories in there initially. Some of them were written back in 2018. Some of them are fairly recent, and I think how do you bring these concepts to life? And I want to comment. So you're talking about this discover your ideal client Venn diagram, and I'll just gonna take a minute and find it for folks so they can see it for themselves. All right, here you go, folks. So this is this Venn diagram,
That is it. That's the
and
one.
and so you've got expertise, passion, and then on the bottom circle, impact and income. And then middle is your ideal client. So tell me what resonated about that, because I think the
Well, I think
ideal
what
client is always kind of difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I think what really resonated for me, I guess, is that I always like to kind of call myself a little bit of a recovering academic. So I came from working at a university, and I went off on my own to become an entrepreneur. And so this is all new. It's a new foray for me to kind of jump into this. So I kind of felt like I had kind of that expertise stuff kind of sorted. I have studied this extensively around and extensively around that kind of alumni space, and I kind
Mhm.
of felt that I definitely have the passion for the area, but it was getting that bottom piece that you showed about the income and
Impact
the
and income.
impact, and I was like, because when you have a lot of that passion, as you know, Robbie, it's so easy. Just as we were talking earlier, it's so easy to just kind of go, you know what, I'll do that for free, or I'll do another event. And there comes a point where you have to kind of say, no, I am all those other things, Roland. I am the expert, and I am the passion. And so it really allowed me to kind of kind of articulate what was already there, but then have it articulate on paper. I thought that was really, really powerful. Um, and just, I mean, I bookmarked. I have an e-copy of your book, so I have lots of
Mhm.
nice little bookmarks throughout it. It's really, really helpful. So I was able to review them again. So there's just so much in it that I found that was really, really really valuable from that. But that was like, to me, that was the aha moment, was looking at that going, yeah, I know where I am. So,
Yeah, you're in the
and
right
who
place.
is my ideal client? I think that was, and the other one was around that 15, the challenges that are in the book, like the one around, find 15 to 20 people that are likely prospects. Is that, because I have that expertise and I have been working around that sector for so long, I know the people that could be my ideal clients. And now it's the challenge of saying, okay, I got to go out and like chat to these people. That's an important component. It's not just, find out deeper what their problem is, as you said in the book. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I need to do. So there's a lot of like, my to-do list is getting longer and longer, Robbie. So that's your fault. But I think in a really positive way, not in a busy, the too busy way. It's in a really constructive and a really strategic way. I think that's what's really valuable.
Right. So now you know where to spend your time so you can have
Yeah.
meaningful conversations and get people moving. I see a comment in here. I'm not sure what VOI stands for, FYI, Corey. So maybe you can spell that out. I'll know better what you're saying there. So yes, thank you for sharing that. I think that the book is meant to be really practical, and that's sort of what you were commenting on in your Amazon review. That it's things that you can then put on your to-do list. So tell me some of the things you're actually planning to do. Like, what are some of those steps that you're now implementing in the next few months?
Good question. So I have a list in front of me of some things that I'm thinking about doing. One of them is looking over some of the questions that, Robbie, that you put in the book that I really liked. That idea of how I'm, doing an assessment of my time. Am I spending time, on your business instead of in your business? So having a little bit of reflection time on that, I think, is really powerful. I love the move from the quarterly goals. That's one of the things I want to implement for 2022. And I think your book is really timely and when it's come out, because I want to shift to those 12-week sprints that you talk about in your book. I just think that's such a great idea, with the idea of having the pause and the reflection time, between those 12-week sprints. So I really want to try to test that out in 2022. Doing a reassessment of my spreadsheet. When you have a small list like I do, and maybe some of your people that are listening or watching are, maybe they're in the same situation, is that you realize that there's a lot of good nuggets there. Like you say in your book, 80% of the people that are probably your ideal clients, you probably already know.
Right.
So it's just a matter of doing a little bit of an assessment. I really like the way that I'm all about coding. You can tell I'm a researcher, because I all about, the idea of, doing a bit of an assessment of all those people on your list. So that's one of my goals to get done post holiday season, early planning for 2022. Those are the way. And the other one was around that passive. Wrote down passive income fallacy. That's what I wrote down. That you talk about this passive income fallacy, and this idea that, I'm going to make like a passive income stream and it's going to be so awesome. And that was another aha moment, is that, thinking about, nothing is passive income, and that you have to work hard for what you're going to be putting out for your business. And so it's about a little bit thinking about, what does that look like for my business? That's really what I want.
Yeah, the best compliment I've got about this book is that it's a quick read that you'll refer to for decades to come, kind of thing. So, I mean, I feel like you're naming some really great tidbits. The sort of fallacy about evergreen and passive income, I think, is a really important one to underscore, particularly because people who are just starting out think they can build an online course and make it evergreen immediately. And that's just, I mean, the people who have evergreen passive income have built up a big business around it. I mean, if you're going to get a great course out there like that, connecting with LinkedIn Learning would be a wonderful way to get passive income. But you have to have established yourself as an expert with a bit of a following already for that to really work. And even then, your own promotion, your own marketing will get it even better received. So nothing is totally hands off the way we might imagine or sold on the idea. You also got a chance to join my launch team, and considering you were in the throes of your own book launch, and I got to go to your launch event, what were your thoughts about the launch process that you experienced with me?
I loved it, and I have to say, I wish that was something that I had the bandwidth to kind of put together myself for my own book. But I watched with a lot of adoration, I think is the best way to put it. And I found that it was a really great way to keep getting connected to what was coming up. So it was reminding me, like, oh yeah, that's something I have on my reading list. That's something I want to be looking at and doing. And just like you mentioned in your book, Robbie, the idea that, we all sign up to like lots of online courses, lots of those kind of things that we say that we're going to do. I really found that being on the launch team meant that I was constantly kind of reminded to go back. And I found that that was really useful, but not in a pestery way, in a really kind of gentle nudge way. And I thought that was really good. I kind of wish I had put it together for my book, but circumstances don't always allow. And I know, as they always say, you don't always just write one book. There might be another opportunity. So, lessons
Well,
learned.
good news. One is I call this polite persistence, this gentle nudging.
Mm-hmm.
um, I wanted to share that you could relaunch the book. Like the
Yes.
book can be as is, same thing, just bringing some energy around it again. And I've worked with people who do this around the year anniversary. If they feel like they didn't get the launch they had wanted initially, they could just pick a point. I mean, you can also use a national holiday. Like they have these
Yeah.
like for my first book, there's a national croissant day. So I have done some like bigger promotion around that for my croissants versus bagels book. So you could just pick something that would sort of, be a reason to rally people around. But the publish date and the launch date don't have to correlate at all. And you
Mm.
did what you did and you got it out there, and but now if you wanted to have attention brought to it again, sort of hook on to anything going on in the world, or anything at all really, and just do these steps again, because it would give you a reason to go back and talk to a lot of people. It would probably result in the kind of work you want to be doing in the world. It would probably lead to
Mm.
conversations and research calls just in the process of having the effort behind the book. Um, so don't,
It's a great idea. I love that. Thank you for that. And I hope
yeah,
other people are paying heed to that, because I think it's a really great idea. And you're right, because a book, as you know, a book kind of has a good shelf life. So it's not something, for most books have a good shelf life. So you have an opportunity, and like someone was saying about your book, the idea that you could kind of go back to it again and again. I would hope that the Alumni Way, my book, would also have that same
right.
long-term shelf life. So the idea of being able to relaunch it, I love that idea. And it's funny because I actually didn't put in a launch team the way that you did, but I love that idea. I did kind of a pre-launch where I had a group that helped me to design the cover and do all of those kinds of things. So I was getting that kind of feedback from people. I found that that was really powerful, but I probably could have extended that to having them
Yep.
being part of a bigger launch team. So I can always kind of return to going back to them as a starting point to see if they
Yep.
wanted to get involved in something like that. Love that idea. Great.
Yeah.
Love ideas.
Excellent. Well, and Amazon reviews are social proof for anyone to buy your book. Letting them know that other people found it valuable. It's just so helpful as they're making that decision on whether or not to buy it. But I want to return for a second to the launch process. You're a busy person. You're in the middle of your own book launch. These emails were coming in, and what you're saying, they basically kept gently reminding you that this book was something you had downloaded and had been meaning to get to. So you had this
Mhm.
intention set, and I think that's true whatever we create. So a lot of times people buy courses from us, but then they don't complete them because we have to really nurture them through that experience. So I wonder, in your worldview, because you're in the world of sort of networking and building these connections and alumni networks, how would you apply that same polite persistence, that gentle nudges to sort of just reaching out to people about anything in your network?
That's a really good question, Robbie. I mean, one of the things that I've done for my own personal self to kind of build things and to be able to take the time to read the book and to delve into some of the ideas was I have what I call an alumni Friday. So I like block out time on a Friday. So like all of us, we're all busy in our businesses and doing things, whether that's speaking engagements or research projects or whatever I'm working on. But I make sure that I have like blocked out a good bit of time to be able to work on my business, as you call it. But also this idea that to be able to kind of think about all those other connections that we have in our life, and to be able to spend time to make introductions, to go out and follow up with people, doing all these things. And that could be easily translated into the way that you kind of would have done that for your launch team, where you're taking that time and just like building it into your schedule. I think we're very precious about, oh, we have a meeting at 1 o'clock and we have to like be there. But if we like schedule ourselves in for our time, like we have to kind of take time and build our own schedule for ourselves and for our business. And there's no reason why we shouldn't be as precious with our own time.
I love it. Reminding me, I'm writing an endorsement for my friend Terry Lee Harrison's book, and it's about networking. and it's
Mm.
about high level networking. And she has this concept called Follow Up Friday.
Yeah.
So every Friday, she'd make sure she does whatever follow up needs to happen from the previous week. And I was thinking, like, what a great way to sort of close the week out and make sure that you've nurtured and nudged anybody that needs to have that follow up. Make sure you've replied and done the thing you said you were going to do. And then I was also thinking I should always look ahead, like, to what's going on next week. What reminders can I send? So much of the stuff in my business is automated, but like you messaged me half an hour before this to say, hey, where's the StreamYard link? And I'm like, right, it's not automated. Like
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about things and how to make it simpler. So I love this, like, this concept about follow-up Fridays, just your chance to kind of reach out to people and close the loop. So like what you're saying, like a little bit of time working on your business. um, I would love to just hear you talk a little bit about, you know, what do you wish you knew, I guess, when you were first building out your business? Like, is there something that you wish people could like hear and maybe take in? Because I imagine there are people watching this and who are going to think, oh, I know what I need to do to get started. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
here's the stuff you don't even know to ask. Like, what do you think that would be?
So I read, I know your friend Dory Clark's book, Entrepreneurial You, and in that book she talks about making sure that you're always constantly getting people to join and getting their emails to join your mailing list and having people on that list. And I kind of knew that, in the back of my mind, I knew that that's something I was supposed to do, but I actually didn't do it as diligently as I should have. So, kind of if I was going to kind of rewind back 3 years when I kind of really, took this on full time, I think that's what I would have done much better and much more in earnest is actually, when I'm meeting with people is to say, hey, it's great to meet with you. Would you like to be on my mailing list, or would you like to learn more about what I'm doing, and be much more consistent about that, so that you have that kind of constant channel to be able to connect with people. I think that would be the number. So my list wouldn't be as small. I mean, it's small, but I think it would have been bigger if I had done that right from the beginning. So I think that would be my kind of, one of my number one things is, and I think that idea too about having something like always scheduling out time to do those really precious things like networking, planning, scheduling, and then taking the time for doing the things that you said you want to do. Like, I want to read this book and do better for my business. So schedule it in. I mean, I call it Alumni Friday. It's the same as like a follow-up Friday, but this
Yeah.
idea that you're spending that time. I think if I had done that consistently from the beginning, it's something I've really only instituted. That was one of my 2021 New Year's resolutions that I did keep throughout the whole year, and I did kind of, and it's something I'm going to continue doing in 2022. So definitely something I would be saying to people to do.
Yeah, I remember Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income said his biggest regret when starting out was that he didn't work on his email list right away. And he said the second biggest mistake people have with an email list is they start collecting emails and then don't send anything to them. And I was actually guilty of that. I was collecting email addresses of people who attended my events to send them a one-time email to like ask for a review, ask for a testimonial, but I didn't then put them on an email list. I didn't then send them stuff after. And when I was launching my first book, I did send an invitation to my launch team to people that I had spoken in front of 5 years earlier. I had these spreadsheets, and a lot of those people actually did show up because in some ways, the people who have been positively impacted by the work are the ones most likely to show up for you when you ask for something, even more so than close friends, because the close friends aren't necessarily authors or speakers or get it, like what we're trying to do. But the people who are like, yeah, I really do remember that talk, and I'm still using that piece of content and still impacting me. So I think we hesitate sometimes to reach out because we didn't do it all right the first time, but it's never really too late to start engaging with people that you've lost touch with, or they've gotten kind of dormant connections. And I imagine that's true for how you think about alumni. I mean, I just got reminded of this because I'm in something called Lead Boston, which is a leadership program. I'm an alum from class of 2015. I was their alumni engagement chair for a couple of years. You and I are totally peas in a pod when it comes to the importance of this stuff. But it's sort of faded a little bit in my life. And I was recently invited to be interviewed, and then there was an article they were going to write in their newsletter, write about my book and all this stuff's going on. And part of it is because I wrote them to tell them that I had a new book. and how it
Yes.
would be relative to the people in their organization. And so they were like, yeah, well, we'll pass this along to our communications people. And then that led to this possibility. And it actually was like reminding me about this whole network that I have somewhat forgotten about, that I was like, oh, they're friends of mine that I want to reach out to. And then there's just sort of the general network of people. And it's our biggest untapped resource. Like, I'm just as guilty.
Absolutely. I always say, Robbie, I'm always saying that, we all have a lot of our shared formal experiences that we've had in our lives. Like you said, you've had this experience at Leave Boston and all these kind of experience, going to university, even you're going to secondary school. There'd be lots of things, summer camps, whatever might be a really powerful thing. And these are the experiences, especially those that you found that have really had that fundamental transformational experience on your life, is that there's go back, exactly, tell them that you're doing a new business, tell them that you've written a book, tell them that and these places are looking for content, and really celebratory content. So that's what this is. And it's good. I always smile when I hear that people have done this and that it actually has worked out really well. I think that's just, it's amazing. And linked to that would be the whole thing where you talk about your book about the influencer thing, where you go and you reach out to influencers. I found that was really helpful, including reaching out to Dory Clark, who, as you know, wrote an endorsement for the back of my book. I didn't know her, but I actually reached out, and I found that you reach out with a little bit of research, and people are really very receptive. So you just have to kind of be able to take that leap, and talk about yourself, and then have that succinct kind of ask that you're doing. And also the other thing I really like, Robbie, and this isn't always just about how awesome you are, but you are pretty great, is that this idea of being generous, is that it's not always just about how awesome you are, but it's about saying, well, look, I'm going to give you this little tip, and that's going to be something that I'm going to kind of give you, that you can kind of implement in your life. A little tip, a little a little bit of generosity, and people love that. Because they'll come back again and again when you're generous. So it's important, I think, in your network that, network is, I always say it's a 5-to-1 ratio in your network. You should be giving five things to everything that you take from the network. So if you can do that and keep up
Yeah.
that ratio, I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, that's the jab right hook was the way I've heard it described, right?
Good, I love that.
I think that's Seth Godin. I'm pretty sure that's from him. But give, ask, give, ask. Like, there's got to
Yes,
be a
yes.
rhythm where there's a higher proportion of give than ask. And speaking of Dory, she actually has a policy not to ask for anything like significant from someone that she hasn't known for a year, just as a way of sort of like developing the connection before she would make like a big ask. And I think, what would that look like? But, for instance, I don't think you would have reached out to her to write the forward for your book without having developed more of a relationship with her.
Absolutely. No, of
You
course
know?
not. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I had reached out to her before that, because I was excited that she had written an article in the Harvard Business Review about alumni stuff. So I had reached out to tell her how
Right.
excited I was about that, and I guess people love to hear that people have you have good feedback from people, and I gave my comments on. So
Sure.
I felt like I had already done a bit of that. That work, and I'm always asking, what can I do for you? I'm here. I'm, like I've said it to you too. I live in Ireland. I live in Europe. What can I do to kind of spread the word to somewhere further afield, or whatever that might be valuable for your network. So I'm here, and I would be saying the same to you, and I'd be saying the same to her.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I've loved this new idea of doing these lives, because it's another way of like bringing people on. I have a podcast, but it's 50 spots a year fills fills up
I
right
bet.
away. I'm booked so far out with that. It's hard to do things last minute, but I feel like now that I'm doing these lives, it's a way for me to get on. It's centered around a piece of content, but obviously we can go off script and talk about other stuff. And I think it's just interesting. And it is another way of giving back. So I think you're right about, being willing to share something. I almost can't help it at this point. I honestly, Maria, like,
Yeah.
if I have the ability to offer something that might help solve something, like, I just, to not say something, is it just so like would hurt me to
Yeah,
not tell them.
and I think you mentioned that in your book too, though. It's that you give away a little bit. You don't give away all. You just give away enough that people go, "Oh, that's really like valuable. I bet you I could get much, much more." And I know that we've talked about that. We've talked about this kind of stuff before. You can't, we can't give away everything for free, because if you do, then people have very little value in it.
Right.
And I think there's that kind of fine balance of saying, people do value things that they have, invested in.
Yep.
And yeah, I think that's why it's important to, if we've invested time, for example, in doing something like, making the leap to join your launch team or to buy a book, it's like that's taking time to actually say, well, I actually now have to invest my time to actually find out if this is valuable for me or how it's valuable for me.
So I wanted to make sure people knew about getting the Big Results Toolkit and the book. You can get both of those at smallestbigresults.com. The toolkit has resources to help people implement the strategies in the book. So I'll make sure people know about that. And it's been wonderful to talk to you and hear kind of how this all struck you. And I'm actually looking forward to being invited in your launch team for when you do the next
Right.
version of your launch, when you
Oh,
relaunch
thank you.
this.
And thank you for the idea. I love that. Thank you so much, Robbie. And it's been my pleasure. And my pleasure to have a great read.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. See you
Yeah.
later.
Pleasure. Take care. Bye bye.